So, good morning. Good morning to another session of Gut Microbiome, the future of nutrition and healthcare. So, Sushant, you have been doing wonderful job, in terms of addressing this whole nutrition space in a very scientifically, which can help everyone. और अगर आप आज देखो ना, तो मैंने पीछे ना अपने वो बैकग्राउंड ग्रीन लगाया है. हमें ना, we all love greenery outside, but the most important thing is also to maintain similar kind of greenery or microbiome flora inside the body. अंदर भी इतना ही सुंदर रखना चाहिए. So today I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, because India is the diabetic capital of the world, and there are so many myths. So many people are obese. So many people are prone to diabetes, and there is whole lot of discrepancies, I would say, confusions, बहुत सारे नीम हकीम खतरा जान on this particular subject talking about this. So I would really like to first of all ask you, how do we address obesity and diabetes overall when we are sitting on such a big ticking time bomb? The focus today is going to be sugar, as you correctly said. Huge population is already suffering, and a lot of people are already there in pre-diabetic zone or susceptible family histories. So what do you talk about sugars?
Okay, so essentially, we generally think, okay, sugar is bad, sugar is good, too much sugar is bad, eating less sugar is fine. Suppose if you are consuming, you're saying I'm consuming this 10 grams of sugar or 5 grams of sugar. WHO also says, 25 grams of sugar is fine to consume in a day, right? Unlike if in US, people consume 100 grams of sugar a day, right? But here that's the problem. We actually look at a macro level, we misses the whole point, right? So essentially, there are different forms of sugar, right? So let us decode that, right? So essentially there are naturally occurring sugar which you can find in grains and milk and fruits and vegetables, right? Which our body requires. Obviously our body needs sugar, right? And these are the correct form of consuming sugar, right? But what has happened is over a period of last 8 to 10 years, a lot of these growth of supermarkets and growth of these packaged foods and so much exotic foods. So all when this naturally occurring sugar is added as external sugar to a lot of foods and beverages, right? It is harmful, right? So again, which form you're consuming, it matters, right? For instance, if you go and buy something, some biscuit or some cookies on a supermarket, and it's written naturally occurring sugar, right? So it is again an added sugar. It doesn't mean naturally occurring sugar is, because most of naturally occurring sugar is either milk or grains or fruits and vegetables, right? So that is one form of sugar, right? Which is, again, other is the what we call is this is called free sugar, right? So what we are adding naturally occurring sugar is called free sugar, right? Another form of free sugar is, so just to let everyone know that there are different forms of sugar. One is monosaccharides, which we have is glucose and fructose, right? Then we have disaccharides, which is again sucrose, and then we have polysaccharides. So these are different forms of natural sugar, right? And again, so when it comes to free sugar, one form of free sugar is adding naturally occurring sugars to different foods and beverages, right? Or the sugar found in jaggery and syrups and in honey, right? All these are also free sugar, right? And again, what we call is polyols or sugar alcohols, right? So orbitol, erythritol. So there are a number of these sugar alcohols, and a recent research in Nature just a few days back came that erythritol is connected to higher risk of cardiovascular diseases, right? And I recently I visited Delhi and found a lot of supermarkets have this this sugar molecule freely being selling, right? Like big packets, 1 kg, 2 kg packets of erythritol being sold in the market.
Yeah.
Right? So again, there are different forms of these sugar, which is again sucrose, and then we have polysaccharides. So these are different forms of natural sugar, right? And again, so when it comes to free sugar, one form of free sugar is adding naturally occurring sugars to different foods and beverages, right? all the sugar found in jaggery and syrups and in honey, right? All these are also free sugar, right? And again, what we call is polyols or sugar alcohols, right? So orbitol, erythritol. So there are a number of these sugar alcohols, and a recent research in Nature just few days back came that erythritol is connected to higher risk of cardiovascular diseases, right? And I recently I visited Delhi and found a lot of supermarkets have this this sugar molecule freely being selling, right? Like big packets, 1 kg 2 kg packets of erythritol being sold in the market, right? So again, so again, there are different forms of these sugar. We have to understand these sugars are metabolized differently inside the body, right? Some of them are 75%, some of them are metabolized in small intestine, some of them are only 5% metabolized in small intestine, and a lot of them goes to your large intestine, right? And again, large intestine has trillions of bacteria, and how they behave, how they interact with this determined, right? So essentially this is one of the reasons, for instance, let me give an example. Fructose or this sugar molecule, sugar alcohols are very scarcely or poorly absorbed in small intestine, right? So it goes to a large intestine. Now large intestine, again, what happens is, so this is understanding is a very simple thing that whenever we are diverse source of nutrient available to microbes, right? So they switch off the most costlier metabolic pathways, right? So they start consuming when it happens. So when it start consuming sugar, and these bacteria like petopoints, which are actually commensal bacteria, right? So they start eating sugar like proteobacteria, like D sulfobrio, right? And they start doing inflammation, right? So they start releasing lipopolysaccharides again. It is again an endotoxin as a result of metabolism of all these saccharides, right? D-sulfobrio releases sulfur because white sugar is high in sulfur, right? And these bring a lot of inflammatory issues inside our body, right? So we need to really understand, which specific sugar we are eating, right? How it is being metabolized inside the body. For every individual, it is different. You cannot say, okay, I eat 10 grams of sugar, it is not going to make me fat, or it is not going to turn into diabetes, it is not going to turn me obese, right? It all depends if that 10 grams of sugar is entirely fructose, right? Which is, or it is all, honey. So honey, if you see even organic honey, have in 21 grams of tablespoon, there are 16.66 grams of sugar, right? So again, all these are directly consumed in large intestine. Small intestine, again, it depends. Everyone's in biology is really different, right? So for some people, 30% it may get absorbed in small intestine. For other people, it may go to large intestine, a lot of bugs, right? So again, the form of sugar which you are consuming, right? It is important. Naturally occurring sugar means only taking from food, vegetables, and grains and milk, right? Any packet, cookies packet, or any packaged food which is claiming naturally occurring sugar, it is actually added sugar, right? So it is going to do harm. So it is going to create hyperlipidemia, it is going to create type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, chronic kidney disease, non-fatty liver disease. So this is, the first question we should ask is which form of sugar we are consuming, right? Whether it is really naturally occurring or it is an added one, right?
So if we have to summarize for the audience or a common person like me or somebody else, for sugars, so what will be your recommendation overall balance? I understand it is different from person to person.
Yeah. So my recommendation is eat a lot of fruits, vegetables, milk and grains, because these are already loaded with fibers, right? So a lot of these, glucose and sucrose and all these foods actually get digested in small intestine, right? And rest of the undigested part, which is the fiber, or which is starch, which resistant starch, which gets into large intestine, and these are beneficial folks like bitrate producing bacteria, which produces bitrate, which improves your gut lining, which improves your satiety, right? So these are the real foods you should eat. These have naturally occurring sugar, right? Avoid too much of cookies and biscuits and a lot of these beverages, available in the market. Like even if you see these Starbucks, these bottles are now being sold at various supermarkets. These are also have a lot of sugar, right? So all even the mother dairy flavored milk have a lot of sugar, right? So these are all added sugar. So probably you should avoid consuming those sugar, even if you're consuming less.
So well said, Sushant. I think you covered it pretty well for all of us. So another blockbuster point, is artificial sweetener. I have seen everybody left and right, even youngsters. I have seen, those who are very diet conscious or health conscious, they are extensively using artificial sweetener. So what's your take, and what is the scientific, thought process, and linkage to microbiome?
Okay, so a lot of people think, people know sugar is bad, right? And we let's replace sugar with artificial sweeteners. These are called non-nutritive sweeteners, right? But the thing is, they have, because of again the same misconception that it's calorie in, calorie out, because these sweeteners are very low in calories, or they are 0 calories also, right? So essentially we tend to replace the sugars with these these artificial made things, right? And again, the problem is these artificial sweeteners are much sweeter, like 30 times sweeter than sucrose and glucose and fructose and maltose and a lot of these things, right? So essentially what happens is that these artificial sweeteners, our body or host or our human body is not capable to metabolize these artificial sweeteners. So small intestine passes this to large intestine, and then again these feeds a lot of these pathogenic bacteria, as I mentioned about proteobacteria. It suppresses beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus, right? Like bacteroides, right, which are really essential for providing, for metabolizing fruits and vegetables, right? So essentially this is one of the reasons why a lot of people are replacing sugar with artificial sugar, but still the obesity is not going down, right? Because they are actually leading to low insulin sensitivity, impaired insulin intolerance. There are mitochondrial dysfunction which is happening, which is impacting beta cells, and again we know beta cells release insulin, right? And beta cell impacted, probably the sugar level goes high, right? So in direct way you may not be eating sugar, but this artificial sweetener may be doing bad things, because again they are not absorbed in your small intestine. 90% of it
because body does not know how to metabolize these artificial sweeteners. So we are trying to play with the body, but it can create really big imbalances and insulin sensitivity issues and all. So thank you so much. I think on artificial sweetener, do you have any other point on artificial sweetener, or we move
so
on?
I think we should talk about more about the microbiome connection, because since artificial sweeteners are metabolized by a lot of these gut microbes, so probably we should discuss more about that.
So let's talk about now the science, which you have taken this cause extremely well in this whole region, in Asia region, and you are probably the number one company who took initiative in this direction, very, very scientifically tried to decode good things for everyone, for health. So now let us talk about the microbiome role connection, in this whole sugar, artificial sweetener overall game.
So there are three forms of sugar we should consider, right? So fructose, sugar molecules, polyols, right? And artificial sweeteners. All these are metabolized in large intestine, right? The small intestine, it is poorly metabolized, right? So all these feeds proteobacteria, candida strains, pathogenic bacteria, E. coli, so a lot of these leads to production of LPS, as I shared, and the H2S production, and it triggers a lot of inflammation, right? And again, when it triggers inflammation, it leads to low short chain fatty acid production, which is beneficial for regulating our insulin response, right? It even lead to suppressing a lot of beneficial bacteria which are responsible for providing even antioxidants, right? So it again increases your risk of type 2 diabetes and obesity, and cardiovascular disease. Even there are certain alcohols like erythritol I mentioned. It has an increased risk of cardiovascular diseases, right? But here you have to understand in a very different way that these microbes like us compete for food and space, right? So essentially they prefer a place where there's a lot of nutrient rich and where less microbes, right? So when we are consuming all these fructose and artificial sweeteners and sugar alcohols and all these things, right? So consider it like different restaurants have different foods. It's called restaurant hypothesis, right? So within the gut microbes there will be different restaurants like this, and same microbe can go to different restaurants, right? So essentially these guys are actually, when they are a lot of sugar, so they start consuming a lot of sugar and they avoid other nutrient sources, and then when they do is, so they changes a lot of physiology inside the body, so they will start
So this is the reason, थोड़ी sugar खाओ तो और craving, very good point. I think you have covered.
So essentially what happens is they start releasing dopamine. Again, 50% dopamine is released in the gut, right? So dopamine gives a message to brain that, oh, I really like this, give me some more. Then that's why you start consuming a lot of food, that is food craving or sugar cravings comes in, or these microbes will change your taste receptors. You will prefer consuming a lot of sugar, right? So this is the reason why you have sugar cravings, why you gain obesity. And just by having artificial sweetener, which you think is good because it is very low in calories, right? So it makes your microbes to tell brain to eat more sugar, right? Or eat more of refined carbohydrates, right? So this is the reason why we end up gaining weight even after we are having a lot of people who even lose weight because there is a calorie deficit, but again they regain weight because it's just suppressing. Weight is just a symptom. Underlying cause is inflammation, right? So problem is you have to understand what is causing inflammation. Even these microbes can actually dysregulate your ghrelin and leptin responses. It can actually suppress your this GLP-1, which is again, so I remember another company which launched a GLP-1 medicines to suppress obesity. It is all because your GLP-1 metabolism is depending upon your gut microbiome, right? So essentially the focus has to be understanding these trillions of microbes, even not gut, even we'll talk about this in the next session also, that vaginal microbes for females. So a lot of vaginal microbiome, if you are feeding a lot of sugar, it feeds fungi and yeast, right? It leads to yeast infection. It leads to gestational diabetes in case of female who are pregnant, right? So pregnant women. So you have to understand, there's an entire ecosystem of microbe living inside your body, right? That's what is important.
So what you said, a lot of people should understand here is, obesity or diabetes or, kidney dysfunction or all diseases and abnormalities is actually because of chronic inflammation, which is happening because of microbiome disbalance in the gut and different organs of the body. So due to paucity of time, probably today we will not dive deep into the science of microbiome, but what is very important is to understand the role of sugars or artificial sweetener should be a big no-no. And how do we healthify ourselves in the most scientific manner. And if you have any other parting comment on this, otherwise we are going to cover this extensively on microbiome, on diabetes in the next talk. So
I will leave this. My last comment here is, please do not fall for high protein diet, do not fall for fat diets, do not fall for ketosis, do not fall for quantified nutrition. Don't count, right? I've seen a lot of people even counting how much of oil they are putting, how much of spices they are putting, don't count this. Nobody did that, ask your grandfathers, great grandfathers, your ancestors. No, never, they counted food, right? So don't count foods, don't go for calorie in, calorie out. Just understand, if you really want to have calorie in, calorie out, improve your satiety by feeding the biotic producing bacteria, right? So eat a lot of such foods which produces more of short chain fatty acids. You will automatically not crave for foods, right? And again, protein, I don't mean, do not have excess protein, or even if you, or there are some people who have, high methane gas production, which lead to acid reflux, or you don't have digestive enzyme to, metabolize a lot of protein. For them, okay, protein consumption you need to reduce, right? But we need to take only that much of protein which can be absorbed in small intestine. Please remember, if you eat excess, it goes to large intestine, start releasing a lot of things like putrescine and methane and ammonia and hydrogen sulfide and peak resol and oxide sulfate. These all are bad things, right? And these impact even your kidney functioning, right? So focus mostly on understanding, measuring your biology, right? Your blood works are going to measure your biology, right? We have discussed this in a previous video that blood works is just a way of suppressing your symptoms, right? So focus on understanding your biology, how the food you're eating is interacting with a lot of these molecules. And I have shared this in previous video also, that food is nothing but a container of 25,000 plus molecular ingredients, right? So when these hit, the chemical factory, which is your microbes inside your gut, they release this byproducts. These byproducts give you either nutrients or toxins, which makes you develop disease, right? That's a very simple nutrition as a science, or personalized nutrition and medicine. That's a basic, Bible. So nobody can tell you what you should eat, what you should not, unless they have measured your biology, right? So in case if you are interested, in knowing about, gut microbiome, vaginal microbiome, or even for your child obesity, so we do connect with us. We can actually help you a lot in terms of managing your biology, your molecular interactions. And if you want to know more details, I would be happy to share these research papers also with you, right? From where we have a lot of insights have been gathered, right?
Have been gathered. So thank you very much. I will summarize by what you just said. Try to be balanced, in your approach. That's number one. And number two, try to be as natural as possible while you are taking nutrition. So thank you very much, Sushant. And we are going to hear a lot more from you in the coming talk, where we will extensively discuss the science piece of it. So have a wonderful day ahead, and thank you, audience, for your patience and understanding and giving us time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Take care. Bye.